As I'm recording this course, Android is moving to a new and exciting time in terms of the IDE we use. Now, since Android's inception, Eclipse has always been the IDE endorsed by Google. Right? But the thing that's important to remember is that although it's been the endorsed development environment, it hasn't been the only available Google development environment. Now, there have been a number of different ones, but for most of the life of Android, a company called JetBrains has offered a reasonably popular alternative. It was called IntelliJ IDE. IntelliJ is used by a lot of people for a lot of non-Microsoft environments, very popular in the Java world as well as some other language environments. It has both a Community Edition and a Pro Edition. The Community Edition has always been free. I've been a huge fan of IntelliJ as long as it's been around, basically, or at least as long as I've been aware of it. In fact, all of my Android courses for Pluralsight are recorded using IntelliJ. The thing that's funny is that a lot of us believe that IntelliJ is a much more productive way to create Android applications than Eclipse was. Even though most people use Eclipse, it's always been the endorsed environment by Google. Well, at Google I/O in 2013, which is May 2013, in the keynote presentation for Google I/O, Google announced that they're using a new IDE, or I should say they're endorsing a new IDE as the preferred environment for Google, Android development. That's called Android Studio. Android Studio is built on JetBrains IntelliJ IDE. So literally it's kind of specialization of the Community Edition of IntelliJ. So what that means is that although both of these environments will coexist probably forever. And even right now, as I'm recording this, Android Studio is in 0.1 version, or I should say version 0.1. So it's not really fully prime time ready. Android Studio is the future. So Eclipse is really kind of going away. And I don't mean it's going to disappear altogether, but in terms of being the preferred environment, that time frame is ending. Android Studio is where we're heading now. Now, if we look at our overall tools architecture that we've talked about earlier, basically, the only thing that's really being affected in this is Eclipse. Basically, what's happening is that Eclipse is going away, and Android Studio is coming in and replacing it. So it'll be the place where we do all of our coding, our debugging, those sort of things. You'll notice one thing is that DDMS is not inside of Android Studio. So it's not actually enclosed inside of Android Studio as a view, or I should say as a perspective as it was in Eclipse. That's really kind of a minor issue. You can still launch DDMS directly from Android Studio. Your interaction with DDMS will be exactly the same. The only difference is that's a separate window from Android Studio instead of being an embedded window. But Logcat is still accessible inside of Android Studio. So really it's just Android Studio is the focus of where we do our development. All the rest of the tools are just as they were before.